I do have a couple other things to add to the agenda. They should be short and they're public. So money things for DPW.
So I do show on my end that we are live. So I will call to order this special meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees.
I do have things to add to the agenda. There should be short and they're close that tab.
Just close the tab.
Yeah.
Okay, apologies, done, thank you.
The governor did extend the executive order allowing for fully remote meetings. And so I am joining you from an undisclosed location to your south, about 6 hours. And Trustee Hannon is excused for the evening. Do we have what are the changes to the agenda? You'd mentioned a couple, Ben.
Yeah, I wanted to add an approval or a discussion approving a quote for DPW for radios at the water building down by the park. I'll talk more about that, and then a possible permissive referendum for the mower for DPW.
Okay, and Marcia, you wanted to talk about garbage at the fire hall.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll do all of those items under new business. I don't believe, if the owl is telling the truth, that there is any member of the public present in person. And Jessica, you said there's no one in the waiting room on the Zoom.
Correct.
Okay, so we will bypass our public comment period privilege of the floor and move right on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the water improvement grant application, which begins with a need for a formal review of the seeker full environmental assessment form part 1. And assuming that we agree with what is presented there, will be followed by a resolution to approve seeker FEAF part 1 and a resolution to declare our intent to be lead agency in this process. Ben, did you want me to, or do you want to walk our way through the FEAF part 1?
I'm happy to lead that.
Okay.
Get just settled here quickly on all the documents. So this starts with, what is that? All right, so this starts with the review of the full environmental assessment form part 1. So this is part 1 of seeker. There's multiple pieces, and that is in the Dropbox and in the agenda. I was thinking we could kind of walk through the first parts a little more bit by bit. Those are the kind of interesting parts, and then the rest of it is pretty much copy and paste from an online mapper tool, but we could call out any interesting details. So I'll just read kind of the project information just to get everyone on the same page. This is the Village of Trumansburg water system improvements. Locations include Frontenac Road Well House, Route 89 booster pump station, the Hector and Halsey elevated storage tank, the Hoffmeyer Well House, the New York State Park Chemical Treatment Building, the Corey Street booster pump station. Those are all areas that this might touch. The intent is to improve the existing water supply system of the village. This will require replacing an existing production well structure, various mechanical, electrical improvements at the production well, chemical treatment facilities, and booster pump stations, adding a potable water storage tank mixing system and an elevated storage tank, decommissioning an emergency backup well, and improving structures and site security at various locations within the water system, and all ancillary and miscellaneous improvements associated with the project. And the last part is a bit of a catch-all, but important so that we cover all the different little pieces that might come along the way and feel that we're well and truly reviewing everything. The approvals, this is where we can talk about any other agencies we think might be in need of being aware of this work, but this is going to be a coordinated effort. A coordinated review. That means that we anticipate other entities being interested in the review that will lead that review. So the Engaged entities are, of course, ourselves. This will not be go before our planning board or zoning board. Other departments include our Department of Public Works and Sewer and Water Department, the county planning boards and the Health Advisory Board, County Health Department, and then State Department of Energy and Conservation, Department of Health and Environment, EFC, yes, I don't remember which one that is. Second, Environmental Facilities Corporation. And this is not regarding any coastal resources. So that's kind of the top two pieces, A and B. We can talk about kind of the rest as we'd like to go. One way I kind of looked at this is just to go through all the yeses and take a look at those if we'd like to. Which I'm open to other ideas, but that's probably where the most interesting pieces come from.
So actually do have one question.
Yeah.
So I was just reading through this, got to the no, does not involve water storage question. It was sort of a like, what? And then I looked at the description, and the description also doesn't include the storage tank. It's just the pump, right? Am I understanding
So
that right?
the description is only a mixer for the storage tank.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to see where the
I should have flagged it, and then it was one of those things I was just reading.
That's all right.
Sorry.
so let's see the description did include the two.
Well,
Yeah, I'm looking for the word storage. Let's see, H, what's it, this is,
I don't remember.
Question H does ask, does the proposed action include construction or other activities that will result in the impoundment of any liquids such as a creation of a water supply, reservoir, pond, lake, waste lagoon, or other storage? So I think if that's the question that you're looking at, Ben, then I think no is correct because we're not creating anything. That would be new construction or new storage. Refurbishing an existing water tank would not be the creation of a water supply, reservoir, pond, lake, or storage.
Yeah, I guess creation being the operative word. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right, that's my own question.
Fair enough. And that might be sufficient. I mean, I'm happy to also just pause and see if we have any other comments we want to dig into. Or if we would like more on the record. Obviously, this whole thing's in our agenda packet. I'm happy to kind of talk through the yeses. I'll see if anyone has any opinions either way on that.
I'm happy either way. That was the only thing as I sort of read through it. That jumped out at me as something that was, question mark. Other than that, it seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward. And the appendix at the end, the EAF mapper summary report is the thing where, this is a tool that our MRB, our engineer, has gone into, filled out all the proper, information, and this returns basically, here's all your answers for this part one. So it's not like there's a lot of guesswork or decision making to be had. We're just reflecting what the state kind of tells us to put in there. All right, if we are comfortable with that, then the next part is there's not really an action on that, but I think there's something in the resolution. But I'll read through the resolution that we want to consider. And so I'll just read that out. It says, whereas the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees, herein referred to as Village Board, has reviewed the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Full Environmental Assessment Form, EAF, Part 1, prepared by the MRB Group, herein referred to as the Village Engineer, on the above referenced Village of Trumansburg Water System Improvement Project, hereinafter referred to as Action. And whereas the Village Board determines that said action is classified as a type 1 action under the State Environmental Quality Review SECRA regulations, The village board, whereas the village board determines that said action is also subject to review and approval by other involved agencies under secret regulations. And whereas the village board determines that it is the most appropriate agency to ensure the coordination of this action and will provide written notifications to involved agencies for the proposes of constructing a coordinated, for the purpose, excuse me. The purposes of conducting a coordinated review and making a determination of significance thereon under secret regulations, now therefore be resolved that the village board does hereby declare its intent to be designated as the lead agency for the action and directs the village mayor to sign and date the full EAF Part 1. Be it further resolved that the village engineer is directed to provide notice thereof to the involved and interested agencies seeking their agreement or objection thereto in writing. And I would move that.
I will say.
And then we can discuss that. One thing to mention, type 1 action is just to say that this is listed as an action needing a full review.
So we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? And no one in the Zoom lobby, just to be sure one more time.
Correct.
Okay, if there are no comments or questions or edits to either the secret full environmental assessment form or the resolution as presented, then all in favor of adopting the resolution as presented and which authorized my signing secret FEA Part 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Now the timeline, then let's just take a quick look at that.
Yeah, it is compact. So I do believe we want to get this back to them, back to MRB by tomorrow. So hopefully we have a way of getting your signature sent over between now and then.
I mean, I can scan and you can e-sign.
That's true. We could DocuSign that. Do we need?
Do I need an official portal like Adobe or DocuSign? Or can you just sign it?
I should be able to print it and sign it and scan it back.
Okay.
If I can't print it, then I will have Matt or someone at MRB run the signature page to me through DocuSign.
Great, okay.
Right, so then after that, through the rest of the week, MRB will prepare the coordination packet and send it out to all the interested parties, and that starts, well, I think this starts a 30-day period. And then that allows us to, at our, MRB will then, in August, prepare the rest of the environmental assessment form. And any supporting documents and a resolution for us to walk through to declare lead agency and determine significance, should we agree. The 30-day clock ends towards the end of August, and that does allow us to have a regular scheduled August 22nd board meeting where we can review the rest of the environmental assessment form. That'll give enough time for any agency to give feedback or have objections, and then we can walk through the resolutions, assuming we want to pass them.
Okay. Good. All right. Anything more on the WIA grant application?
That is all that I'm aware of.
Okay. Good. Then item number 5 on the agenda is old business. I wanted to have a little bit of a chat about the gateway signage so that we can make some decisions or pass along some decisions to Rob Cassetti, Alan Vogel and company. I think they're moving ahead with the refurbishing of the top part. They are going to remove the section that says Home of Teganic Falls, and they're going to reclaim some blank wood, which we will need to decide whether we want to use an established date or an incorporated date. And there was a series of emails back and forth, but I figure we could just discuss it now. The established date of 1792 is when Abner started to log the area of land where the Presbyterian Church now sits. And of course, the incorporated date is what we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of. And I just ended that sentence in a preposition. But in any event, we should give some direction as to which of those two dates we consider preferential. The kind of the discussion basically hinges on the older date being kind of the more impressive date from a longevity standpoint. I know that Rob and Alan, particularly Rob, who I think he was on the board of directors of the State Museum Association, kind of has a sense of long-term historical perspective, likes the older date. Ben Darfler brought up the very good point that do we like arbitrary dates that are kind of when the first white guy showed up in the area? And I'm sensitive to that concern as well. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to decide whether we want established 1792 or incorporated 1872, and give those marching orders to Rob and Alan. So Marcia, Ben, and Ben, me personally, I'm pretty ambivalent either way. I kind of get both sides of the conversation, but I
What
wanted to hear
was established
what you
or
all thought.
incorporated, and what were those dates again?
17.
So established 1792 or incorporated 1872.
I tend to go with the old one.
I'm pretty firmly in favor of incorporated. I think we just put together a comprehensive plan with like a land acknowledgement that acknowledges the Native American communities that were displaced and murdered when white people moved here. And it feels a little bit weird to then immediately after passing that celebrate that same murder. Not to put it in too broad terms, right? And obviously, I think it's, as a village, it's simplistic to say that it's similar down to that.
What's your?
I'm actually still talking.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And I think it's like, to me, I think it's important. As much as I like the appearance and the sort of like, oh, it's old and it's established feels nice to me. I think the cut, like the negative is really immense. So there's like a slight positive, but then the negative is just like pretty deep, I would say. But sorry.
No, I apologize for that. Now I understand your interpretation of it. I guess the only reason why I was speaking the older version is not for the historic significance of a slaughter, but for the fact that it kind of acknowledges the original people that were here in the 1700s and not dismissing their existence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I guess
that's kind of why I like incorporated though, because it's a very specific moment in time. It's like, as opposed to this sort of like, we have a timeline of like, there were native peoples here for, thousands of years. And then at a certain point, white people showed up and, I'm not saying that Abner necessarily was going around murdering people willy-nilly.
No.
I don't know the history that well, and that's not the accusation I'm leveling here, but like to celebrate that moment specifically feels kind of arbitrary to me.
Okay.
Whereas we are a village, this is a village sign, so celebrating the incorporation of the village specifically feels like something that we can celebrate without also kind of having to like hedge against like, but also kind of state.
I see what you're saying. In a moving forward sort of way.
Yeah, it feels, to me, it feels like something that we can honestly be proud of without reservation.
I can absolutely support that point of view. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the way you framed it at the very end, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come with an asterisk. We can kind of be purely
Exactly.
proud of it. Okay. Yeah.
So to know that point of view, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we're all comfortable with 1872. We're not all 100% comfortable, if comfortable at all, with 1792. So we're going to stick with what's most comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Any
I
sort
can
of motion I have to record, or that's just a conversation, right?
that's just a conversation. But
Oh, I thought you said
but-
motion, not motion.
so it's something we can all live with, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll pass that along to Rob. I don't know that they're going to get to the date placard portion of the sign this week. But I think they're full steam ahead with kind of the refurbishing of the main part of the sign. And then we'll see, that'll be our test sign over by SureSave. We'll be able to comment on it and see what we like or what we'd like to have changed.
May I interject?
Any other-
something?
Yeah.
Jordan, I just noticed, and maybe it's been that way for a minute, and I just noticed that the Rotary Circle has fallen off of the Western Gateway sign. Did we know that? And should I alert anyone?
Feels like it doesn't.
Just go grab it.
Yeah, have Dusty grab it if he has a
So you
free
got it?
second.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the one towards?
Yeah,
Over?
but
I think they're actually moving that whole thing.
I know it's just off and on the ground.
Oh,
right
for
now,
sure.
So it either it's
I think
back up or
literally
it-
this week they might be moving.
Oh, okay, but I'll check in with them if that's the right thing
Yeah.
to do. Okay, thanks.
They could just pick it up while they're out there.
Any other items of old business?
Can I just ask one more question about the sign? So the rounded part that's the whiter with the, that they proposed, where they take off the home to Gannett Falls, it just says welcome to Trumansburg, and then they propose the the more oval part that says Gannett Falls Grassroots Trumansburg Fair. We haven't decided whether we're moving forward with that part or.
They are going to design it and show us what it looks like. So they're going to put it together,
Yeah,
And I think
but it's a
that's
separate, it's a
Right,
separate piece of
exactly.
sign.
That's what
So
I
we
was
don't
asking.
like it.
yeah. See, mine
If we
looks
don't
like
like it,
that.
we can have it removed.
Yeah, I think
They decided to go with something that was a little bit more,
I don't know, Rob had said something more recently.
Okay, all right.
Yes, yeah.
okay, I didn't get that. Okay, great. That's it, that was my only question, thank you.
Okay. Item number 6, new business. First, we have a question about garbage at the fire hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an email that kind of went between, I think Matt and Joel, saying that they're having a problem with garbage at the firehouse. And he's just saying that typically the garbage is picked up by the DPW and put in the dumpster. And they said that they sent a message to Dusty about it, and he basically said to figure out a way to get a dumpster up to the firehouse. Because he said between being short of help and the farmer's market filling the dumpster weekly, there isn't any room any longer for the firehouse trash. So they said they would like to look into having a dumpster at the firehouse for the fire and the EMS to use. And I guess the question is, who pays for that? Who would pay for
Generally, something
that?
like that would be split.
Yeah, and they said that they would split the cost of the dumpster between the two, so. And who would we get to make sure that dumpster gets up there? Can they just go ahead and,
It should be. able to
what
do it.
service do we use?
I don't know, so that would be good to
Seven.
coordinate with Dusty, so it's the same
Okay,
people.
okay. So basically, we're saying, yes, go ahead and put a dumpster up there, yeah, okay.
Typically the clerk orders the dumpster. It's all coming from the same place.
Okay,
She orders it temporarily during deer season, which sits down at DPW. So this would just be another permanent dumpster order. Tell them where to locate it, or tell them to coordinate with the fire chief where to locate it.
I would say near wherever the camera is, because I'm just worried that we're gonna have random people dumping trash in that thing. That's my only concern.
There's a lot of cases, sorry.
Yeah, so.
Within 100 yards of the.
That's right, that sounds good. Okay,
Yeah, just have them coordinate so it's not in the way of any of the apparatus or vehicles in and out.
okay.
So I will email you tomorrow,
Okay.
include Chief Taylor and Joel,
And Joel,
and
yeah,
just confirm the size and location of the dumpster, which will be permanent.
okay.
Okay.
And they can best determine where that needs to go, so it's not anybody's way.
And could you just check back in quick, once we have the cost, just. so
Yeah.
you know.
Could you just
Could you just CC me as well?
get you a quote?
Yeah.
Get the size
was my next
information, get the
question.
quote, and then get it approved for order. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, there isn't a multiple quote option for that. So I think it's part of our, what used to be our AWS contract, which is now owned by Casella, and they're the only, I mean, in theory, the other dumpster rental places are mostly construction debris dumpsters. They're not garbage haulers. So it's part of our annual contract with Casella that we can just have them bring another dumpster when we need it. So find out how much it,
Well,
find out how much it is. But
yeah, it's good practice.
Cost.
Okay,
So while we're talking garbage, because we were talking about farmers market garbage very briefly, Alan had mentioned that. And we all seem to be on board, farmers market board, and would like to have a smaller dumpster. Alan had said that he had a connection and I was gonna let him run with that to get a dumpster, but it sounds like maybe we should actually get a second 2-yard dumpster. And I can put you and Dusty in contact.
would you like me to follow the same protocol, say, by the way, what's the cost for a 2-yard dumpster, and then include you as commissioner?
Sure,
Yes.
yeah, and that would be for Dusty in the farmers market.
And the location will be determined by Dustin?
Yeah.
It'll come out of the farmer's market budget?
That's the idea, yeah.
Okay. Which you can also,
Yeah,
okay, great.
so many new dumpsters. We won't run out of space now. That'll be great.
Okay, cool.
okay, Ben, DPW radio quote and possibly
Yeah.
DPW mower.
Well, let's start with the mower. I think that's a little more straightforward. Dusty had planned on using the equipment reserve for a new mower. He has a quote that's in the $8,000 range and then wants to add some couple of amenities to it. So he was asking us to have a permissive referendum for up to $10,000 from the equipment reserve for the purchase of a mower. That reserve currently has just shy of 80,000 in it. So I would make that motion.
Second.
Awesome.
All right, we have a, excuse me, a motion and a second. Any conversation, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
All right, so that's a straightforward one. The slightly more interesting one is the issue that's been ongoing for quite some time at the well house. I'm actually not, I'll be honest, not 100% sure if this is at Teganic. I think it's at Teganic though. There's a whole number of kind of remote sensing and ability to at least view what's going on at the water plant there. To get that reporting data out, they need some sort of internet connection. There isn't one down there. So for now, they've been using T-Mobile cellular connections. Something between T-Mobile and Aqualogics, which is the company that runs all the electronics there, is causing frequent connection failures, resulting in Dusty getting phone calls at all hours of the day and night, probably like multiple times a week. And so he's been trying to debug this with Aqualogics and T-Mobile, and they're pointing fingers back and forth at each other and so on and so forth. Recently, Aqualogics had suggested to Dusty that they install a radio antenna setup, skip the AT&T contract or the T-Mobile contract altogether. It is more expensive to set up because there's infrastructure to put together, but it then would remove the monthly T-Mobile pricing, and would, in theory, if it works, help Dusty sleep at night. So I have a quote, it's in the Dropbox, for $8,315. The thing that's in front of us is for that purchase size, we have to approve it here. There aren't competitive bids because this is Aqualogic system and they're just adding to it. The question I put back to Dusty, this is kind of coming together quickly just today, was where's the money coming from? And he hasn't quite sorted that part out. So we're a little bit kind of approving a quote to purchase, but he's still yet to sort out how the money actually comes together. But being that tonight was our board meeting and he is very rightfully sick and tired of getting woken up frequently at night, I said that we would talk about this and see if we want to approve it. And then knowing that, if we have to go for a permissive referendum or something from reserve, that it's just gonna take longer. But at least if he finds out an interesting way of getting the money to put it together when Vicky's in, then he can move ahead with it. So that's the lead up to, and so I'm willing to kind of go ahead and do that and see if he can't make things work before our next meeting. So I would make a motion that we approve this quote for $8,315 for Aqualogics for radio antennas for the Aqualogic system.
How much are we paying T-Mobile?
It's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I wonder if I could find that in a previous abstract. I can look at that briefly.
Kind of monthly in the previous abstract,
Yeah,
and then multiply by 12.
right. Let me see if I can pull that up.
This computer isn't limited that kind of software.
It's also Tuesday.
So Ben, then that equipment would be ours?
This would be ours. Oh, I should also say that they are willing to run kind of a test, right? So like this isn't a guaranteed solution. So the cheap version is they put it all up there and they run it and it doesn't work and they take it all back down. And that's like $800 in labor just to do that. And so there's also kind of, this might help us move forward with that amount of work to start as well. Let me look through. I've got a abstract here. I'm gonna go to the water fund and see that.
So we had a motion on the table. Did anyone second that?
I will second. Thank you for the reminder.
And my internet's a little spotty, so I didn't catch if anyone had seconded that or not.
We have, that was a good catch.
Carter did. Just now.
Okay.
I'm making a guess here, but there is an AT&T line for the water fund, which I suspect is that. And it is $353.75 per month, so that's $4,245. So we're talking in the order of break even after 2 years.
And/or break even next week, we discussed next week.
Right. And Dusty is very kindly not, logging 3 hours of time every time he gets woken up. But I appreciate how important that is. In my day job, if an alert is waking up someone at night, that is taken incredibly seriously, especially when it's a false alert.
So their water budget does have a $4,000 telephone line, so that is what that would be. There isn't, unfortunately, though, if we're going to do this properly, there isn't a line that we can get the $8,000 out of other than the water equipment reserve, which has, including what we allocated this year, it's got 115,000 in it. So the dollar amount I'm not worried about. Plus, if we get any of the WIA grant money, this would technically fall under that.
I say we go for the $800 though, at least to see that if it's gonna work first. I mean, if it's not gonna work, that's pointless.
Well, I assume we have to approve this
Right.
to get the pickup.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is that, if it turns out that we're not out the 8,000 if it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
I mean, I'm open to a permissive referendum for, that amount from the water reserve. Probably the best way to go about it, but it just means that we're still, and then, I can tell Dusty the situation, he can see what Aqualogics is willing to do.
Right, that's true.
In the meantime, knowing that it is in theory not a guarantee that they'll get the money right away, but in practice is highly likely.
So if we go the permissive referendum route, that puts 30 days at August the 17th. So the question for Aqualogics is, when would they even start the work?
Yeah,
not gonna-
Dusty was thinking they could actually come out this week. He's been talking with them. And, that would fit with their 30-day terms. or, they could delay it a little bit.
I mean, if they're willing to come out and start the work before they get paid, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If we go the permissive referendum route, we just simply won't be able to cut the check until
Right.
after August the 17th, and I don't know if they would invoice us by then anyway.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I will, is there any order you have a preference on the motions? We've got one on the floor, we can approve that and then do the permissive referendum motion. And I'll just give Dusty kind of the details and let him sort it out with Aqualogics on how quick they want to move.
So I would just offer a friendly amendment that motion is subject to this referendum.
Okay.
I think that should work.
And you have to identify where we're taking the money from.
Oh, so in order to take that money from the water equipment reserve.
Can I ask one deputy treasurer question, which is, to be clear, there are no monthly service fees from Oncologics for this thing. It is a one-time purchase and then it's functional on property we own.
That's my understanding, and that I assume we have like a monthly already line with them. Like they're overseeing all the other businesses. So I think this falls into other support. and
But they're
services.
already provided.
Okay, so the support would come with the new equipment, like,
Well, we already have their equipment throughout the whole system, so our current contract that covers it all.
okay,
The way Dusty explained it to me is that we would not have a monthly cost.
Okay.
We wouldn't have the monthly AT&T cost. I
That
guess,
might not work, because why didn't they do it in the first place?
right.
But it's worth a try.
Let me, yeah. So, okay, so then the motion is to approve this contract and up to that amount taken out of our water equipment reserve.
Up to 8,000.
8,000,
315.
315, yeah, 315, 8,015. For the water equipment reserve.
Okay, any additional questions or comments before we vote on it? All right, then all in favor of spending up to the quoted amount of $8,315 out of the Water Equipment Reserve Fund, subject to permissive referendum, please say aye.
Aye.
Actually do have.
And any opposed?
Oh, sorry.
You already voted.
No, I know, but it doesn't pertain to the vote. Do you know when this started for, like when
He's been talking about it for a number of weeks, or if not a month or longer. I think. I don't know. Yeah, it's been a while, and it's not great.
just curious.
All right, that's all for me.
Okay, any other items of new business? Are we in agreement that we do not need a meeting next Monday night as previously scheduled?
Yes.
Okay, then I will go ahead and get that notice as being canceled. I do have a need for an executive session for matters subject to the Taylor Law, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for that purpose.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are in executive session. Jess, I just need you to go to somewhere on that screen says end live stream.